We've played multiple full seasons of the mod Awakening of the Rebellion here on the channel. For those uninitiated, it's a mod of the classic real-time strategy title Empire at War: Forces of Corruption, released 14 years ago. 14 years! Back in 2006. More than that, it's being actively developed into a bunch of different directions thanks to passionate efforts of fans, the mod authors. The big news this week, Awakening of the Rebellion just released its newest expansion, version 2.8, also known as Commence Ground Assault. It's a total rework of the game's ground combat. I've had a chance to sit down with one of the devs, Mr. President, and talk about the new version, and we talked for hours about all the changes. Far too many to list here, so I decided to make a list of some of my favorite changes to keep it simple. We'll cover the rest in more depth as we play through the new version on the channel. But for now, let's talk about some of those big features. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Captain Shaq. Let's talk 2.8 and why you should already be reinstalling the mod if you don't have it installed already. And if you do have it subscribed to, it's already been updated. If you're currently playing through a campaign and you want to go back and finish that campaign before you try out 2.8, you can do that. Just make sure you subscribe to the older version. The mod authors have been kind enough to release 2.7 as its own mod. This list, by the way, is in no particular order, just a bunch of cool features that are in 2.8. Here we go. Rampage. Now, this is probably the most holy your pants mechanic. The AI can now look at the map, pick an important planet of yours, most likely a production-focused system, something with maybe a shipyard or ground production, check the current ships it has in reserve, and if it finds that the fleet/troops are a proper size, they'll tear off on a rampage to wipe out the target while taking all territory in between. It plays like a fleet admiral picking a high priority target and then attacking. So how do you know if a rampage has been triggered? Well, these little red indicators will show up on your map. These are the location your enemy has deemed to call intergalactic dibs on. If you play on easy mode, then the rampage system will actually be turned off. Each higher difficulty up, the quicker the enemy will start targeting you for rampage. Meaning, the harder it is, the sooner you'll have to start dealing with a very aggressive enemy with real goals. But if you kick the difficulty down a bit, you'll have more time before the Empire, Black Sun, or Rebel Alliance drop the hammer on you at the start of the game. So make sure you pick the difficulty that matches your skill level. If you've never played before, I recommend playing on easy just to get a handle for the game mechanics. Civilians from the base game have been removed completely and replaced with proper militia. And all of the different worlds have different locals. When I was testing, I invaded Concord Dawn and was greeted with a randomized system. 3 Mando clans spawned on the world, each with a random faction loyalty, representing the different clans' allegiances. Some sided with the Black Suns, one sided with the Rebel Alliance, my side, to fight for freedom. And the third told everybody else to suck a blaster and stayed hostile to both of us. Now, in the past, these locals were kind of a joke, barely useful, but not anymore. The Mandos I had control of flew around with jetpacks, giving them unmatched mobility, and had a health of at least a tier 2 infantry. Some came armed with wrist-mounted flamethrowers and anti-vehicle rockets. The fact that the loyalty was random means that every battle could be different on these Mandalorian worlds, and that's just one new local group on one planet. I can't wait to see what the rest of the planets have in store. A few that we've seen: Rebel Militia on Rebel loyal planets, Imperial Army troopers for Imperial planets, Bothan troopers with slug throwers and cloaking devices on Bothwa, and a freaking bull rancor in an arena in the middle of one brand new map. Advanced AI tactics due to optimization. Proper tactics, true attacks from the AI. It's in full swing. A fight that I've gone through dozens of times in 2.7. In 2.7, it leads to some interesting fights, but the AI in Empire War has always been a little on the sad side. They spread out too much, they trickle in, they don't use a good mix of supporting units. In 2.8, in the battle that I tested yesterday, the map had been tweaked and the AI was in full swing. The Empire dropped multiple full platoons to soften up my defenses, and then they hit me with all of them at one time. They spread their attack against multiple fronts, with a collection going to the north and a huge collection going to the south. Then they followed up with a proper attack of a pair of AT-ATs that actually kept facing the right direction. The map itself had been opened up, with a line of trees added to act as a defense area for flanking infantry if I wanted to push out toward their drop zone. New turret locations that are desperately needed now for my defense. And with the new locals helping fight, the Bothans came up with their cloaking device. I was able to flank the enemy on one side. The battle was cinematic, it was epic, and it was a proper struggle. Far better experiences than I'd seen in the past. The new AI seems to be able to make the best out of smaller groupings of units. The battles I've easily won in the past are now much harder fights. I seem to be losing a lot more often when I'm outnumbered or even equally ranked, depending on what they bring to the fight. Add in the infantry rework that we're going to talk about and the new armor system, and it's playing like a new game. I would even say it's better than the space combat. Speaking of those reworks, let's talk about the new infantry mechanics. Now, this is probably the biggest change, something that you'll notice right away. In 2.8, you've got proper platoons. Each trained unit has a role. Each platoon is built of squads. Each squad has different specializations due to how the individual infantry in that squad are built up. Sergeants have extra health, rocket troopers provide anti-armor capability, medics heal their squads and those around them, grenadiers have different effects on their enemies when they're tossing explosives at them. And the difference between concussion versus thermal grenades in their inventory list actually makes a difference using this interesting debuff system. It's a little overwhelming at first when you first get in because you're not going to know what all of these icons mean, but as you get a handle on what each thing does, you start to realize there's a lot of choices here. Repeating blasters that have been assigned to squads as heavy gunners can suppress enemy squads they shoot at. It's an interesting mix. It gets more depth as you expand the type of platoons that you train. I could make a video just on this mechanic alone as I dive deeper and deeper into the new infantry system. And with armor that can support them, it just gets more and more complex. At the end of the day, you as the commander have new tools at your disposal to fight your way. Options is the name of the game here, and it's all so much very inspired by something like, say, Company of Heroes or Men of War, and that's a good thing in my opinion. Speaking of Company of Heroes, another bit has been inspired by that particular game. That would be the armor system. Well, the big news is there is an armor system now. Seriously, that's the biggest change. Base game seems to have just larger health pools for vehicles. In 2.8, it breaks down like this. Open-top vehicles are still vulnerable to your standard infantry fire. We're not talking rockets here, we're talking like blasters and carbines. Light armor has reduced damage from infantry blasters and blaster cannons because you've got a sheet of armor in between you and them. Medium armor reduces the damage even more from infantry, and it reduces slightly the light anti-tank guns that are in the game. Heavy armor reduces the damage from all weapons except heavy AT guns and rockets. Rockets are interesting as they are effective against heavy armor, and the heavier the armor is, the more damage the rocket does. As you're training up your anti-vehicle infantry, there are suitable differences between the rocket systems, so your low tier 1 infantry are still useful. Tier 1 rocket infantry have the largest of warheads in theirs because they don't have a navigation system. They're dumbfire rockets, whereas the higher tiered infantry will have tracking systems, meaning that their rockets can go farther, but they won't do as much damage. Chatting with Mr. President about the new armor system, we talked about how these changes have made for your choices as a commander have more impact. Knowing how you need to attack, what vehicles to disable, when to flank, all makes far more sense now with the new armor changes, and the fact that you need the anti-armor equipment to take care of the job. Well, let's get into space a little bit. This is a ground rework, but space has gotten a little bit of love. And of course, the first thing that you're gonna notice is those new space stations. Each has a new level and are completely custom per faction. Even better, each has a style, strength, and a weakness that fits the respective faction. Rebels have high energy shields and ion cannon mounted on them, and fighter res. The Empire has high armor and just straight damage, and the Black Sun has some interesting shield penetrating weaponry. All of it really does match with the style of each faction. The new models are epic for each level of space station, and the old stations still have a home here, as the old Tier 1 station is now the Rebel Fighter Defense Station that's been cobbled together. Diving into the larger campaigns, this version has a whopping 13 new Galactic Conquest campaigns to try out. Of course, the full classic Awakening of the Rebellion campaign is there with all of its story bits, mission system, and cutscenes, but there's also a Just Rebel versus Empire campaign for those that want more of a true Galactic Civil War focus and you don't want to have the Black Sun in it. There's a campaign that resurrects the classic Awakening of the Rebellion map. There's a series of random challenge campaigns that set everything to random. There's a bunch of them. If you're looking for a particular type of campaign you want to play, or maybe something shorter, there's probably something for you. New maps. While chatting with Mr. President, he said that just about every single planet on the Galactic map has its own battle map. What does this mean? No more repeating ground battles for identical worlds. Even better, old maps have had some major changes. Cover has been added, routes have been opened up or blocked off to make them more interesting tactically. Some terrain has been flattened out to make transport craft more usable and less buggy. In the play sessions that I've had so far, I've seen around a dozen new maps, and almost every single map that I've jumped onto has had some new adjustments or additions. Let's talk difficulty. Awakening the Rebellion has never been an easy mod to jump into. Thankfully, this version's easy mode seems to actually be easy. This is a great way for you new players to jump in and learn about the game before you get wrecked by week 20. Rampage mode for easy has been completely disabled, and the AI has no bonuses or benefits outside of what it gets from the campaign map. So if you've played before and just couldn't figure it out before being orbitally obliterated by an ISD, maybe now's the time to try again. Of course, it wouldn't be an update without talking about the new units. So here's a few examples. Now remember, this is a focus on ground combat that's reworked everything, meaning all the units that you know have been touched up. Every single infantry unit has been reworked and turned into a platoon built with squads with different functions, and each vehicle has been set up with a purpose and a role. A couple quick examples, the Black Sun Skiff has actually been split into 3 new vehicles. You get the general open top 4 guys in a truck style. You've got a rocket-armed monster that has to stay still and deploy the rocket before it fires. And then you've got a really nasty anti-infantry machine gun wielding version. AT-ATs have been reworked for their own strengths and weaknesses, meaning that the 2 that are in the game are neither anti-everything weapons like they were before. U-Wings have been added. It's now a ground support craft, rocking a repeating door-mounted ion cannon for disabling vehicles, something straight out of Rogue One. The A5 has a smokescreen ability. The Imperial Transport gives an ammo ability that increases fire rate of nearby troops. The AAC is no longer an I win button, and you can't spam light tanks and raffle stomp everything. A lot of the cheese mechanics have been worked on and twisted in a way that you can no longer just cheese one unit and win the game, and this is great. I may have to remove my only 4 Quasars from a campaign role. There are so many changes here, I couldn't possibly go into them in a single video, so check out the mod now. 2.8 is out on the Steam Workshop. There's a link in the description below. I'll be streaming gameplay over on my Twitch channel, twitch.com/CaptainShack. If you want to join us, feel free to come on over. Thank you all for watching. I hope your quarantine is going well if you're locked indoors. Thank you, mod authors, for giving us something to do so we don't all go crazy. Stay safe, stay healthy. Remember, I love your faces. I'll see you in the next one.